Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you're enjoying this show, you know the routine. Do me a quick favor. Leave us that rating and review. And if you have not done so already, or if this is your first time listening, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Aaron Anderson. Aaron Anderson has been working in the SEO industry full-time since 2013. Now, he started a link building agency back in 2018, and his approach to link building is purely outreach driven. To learn more about this, let's welcome to the show, Aaron Anderson.
Awesome. Thanks, John. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Aaron.
Yes, we went over your bio at a very, very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Sure. Yeah. So, link building, I kind of got started in SEO agencies that were more general. Link building is a very specific part of SEO. And over time, as I was working in these SEO industries, I just saw like a need for like high quality link building services. And so that's kind of what drew me in, and I saw it was a good fit for my skills. So I kind of got in and started focusing on this specifically. And that's been about 5 years that this has been my specific focus is just in link building.
I appreciate that. Well, listen, I know some of our listeners are like, SEO, link building, what exactly are we even talking about? And how is this relevant for real estate? So let's start high level. Explain what SEO is and why it's relevant for real estate investors and real estate professionals.
Sure. Yeah. So, SEO stands for search engine optimization. In layman's terms, it's basically when you have a website, how does your website show up when people type things into Google looking for products or services or they want answers to their questions? So the way that I like to explain it to people, it's very simplistic, but it gives a good base, is that, when you type something to Google, what does Google use to determine which websites to show you? And there's two main things that they use. The first thing is they look at content, both the content of what you typed, meaning, okay, they typed this, what are they looking for? And then they try to match that up with the content on websites. Like if you asked a question, okay, do we find content that can answer that question? If we can tell you're looking for something specifically, can we find content or that will give you what you're looking for? So that's like the first kind of thing that they do, is they really try to gauge based the content of the user that's typing something in and match that with websites. But even when they do that, there's still going to be hundreds of websites that maybe could be a match. And so the second criteria that they really use is authority or trust. So because they have all these websites they could give you, they want to only send you the websites that they can trust. It's not like a spammy website or it's a weird website. So the main way they track this is through what's called a backlink. When you're reading a blog post and there's like a blue text that you click on it takes you to a different website. Well, that's a backlink. And backlinks are votes of confidence. So in college or high school, you have to write a research paper and the teacher says, be sure to cite your sources and show us where the information came from. Well, that's kind of how the internet works. Whenever you add a link, it's almost like, a vote of confidence or saying where you got information from. So if you take that collectively and you say, okay, what are the websites that are most trusted on the internet? Well, it's the sites that have the most backlinks to them. So like Wikipedia, New York Times, these sites that have backlinks from millions of other websites, they're very trusted. If you have a small website in real estate and, you just launched it and no one really knows about you, no one has linked to you, it's hard for Google to trust your website until you kind of build up some of this authority and trust.
I think that's really helpful, and I appreciate that clear explanation of like what happens with SEO. And you talked about there's two things these search engines are looking for, primarily Google. One is going to be content. Do you answer the question? All right. If someone says, how do I boil an egg? Do you lay out, here's how to boil an egg, right? So will they get the answer to the question they're looking for? And then the second thing is, do you have the authority or trust from others that validates you are qualified to share this information. And there's big websites like you mentioned, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, those kind of, media outlets. But there are also other websites that regular individual people can own that may have that trust and authority to deliver these answers. And the reason this is really important for real estate professionals and real estate investors is if you are looking to grow your business with clients, with investors, this is going to be one of the main ways they're going to find you. They're going to search for something and they're going to connect, right? If you're looking for a real estate agent, I may go on Zillow or I might just Google something and I'm going to see who pops up. And you want to have content or messaging there that connects and engages. And one of the great ways for you to stand out and build that authority is by building out that backlink strategy that Aaron started to allude to. So let's talk a little bit more about that, right? Because I think people understand at a high level how to create content that people are looking for. And if not, we can certainly talk a little bit more about that. But we get the notion of answer the questions that people are looking for or create the kind of content that people are looking for, right? When we talk about building the link strategy and really understanding that can be a challenge for people, right? Because, going to New York Times and saying, hey, link to my post on, XYZ is a bit more of a challenge. So give us kind of your thoughts or your framework for building out kind of a link strategy.
Sure. It does depend a lot on the type of business, but since real estate is very based on location, generally speaking, let's start there. For location-based businesses that are relevant within a certain geographic area, one thing that is really important, this is called like local SEO because it's specific to a local area. So for a local, based business, one thing that's really important is called citation building. And essentially what that is, it's making sure your name, your phone number, and your physical address is in lots of different places on the internet. For example, like you would go on Yelp and create a Yelp listing for your business. You'd go on yellowpages.com. You would find these different directories that help people find local businesses in the area, and you'd make sure you're listed on those. And that's when I got started. That's really what I was doing. I worked for a local business, and it was just like, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just doing directories, adding these directory listings in these different websites. And it still did that just alone, did start to generate leads. So that's kind of the first place I would start for a local based business, because that's kind of low hanging fruit. And you can just type in, let's say like a realtor or something, realtor, city name, and you can just scan the first maybe top 3 pages of Google and see if there's any like directories that show up, like, oh, the top realtors in Las Vegas. And then you can go to that website and say, oh, I want to be added in this directory, and then try to figure out how to get your name added. So that's kind of what I would start with, like any, location-based business, is really just trying to get your name into these directories as a solid foundation. There are also other good strategies that can work quite well. Another one is called Harrow, specifically helpareporter.com, I believe. And what this is journalists are looking for experts in certain areas of expertise to weigh in on different questions they may have. So there could be, and basically if you sign up, you get all these alerts on these different questions. And then if you find one that's relevant and you can sign up for specific keyword alerts, then you can weigh in. So they may ask, about the rental market or the sales market, or they could also ask about like interior design type queries that you can, respond to and get links from some really high authority websites. So those are kind of 2 strategies that like anybody can do without even really knowing that much about like SEO or link building. You can approach those because you can use your expertise, and you can, just find directories to put yourself in.
Those are great tips, right? The first one you talked about was for location-based services. You can go out there and you call it citation building, but just going out there and putting your name, your phone number, your address out there in different directories, make sure you're using like, Google and Yahoo and all these different platforms, so people can actually find where you are and they know, okay, there's this business or there's this person here. And that's an easy way to start building out kind of that SEO strategy. And then the second one I love, we actually had Christina, I believe it's Davies, and she talked about that strategy as well, help a reporter out. and it's great for free publicity. Yes, you got to answer some questions and it helps to know what you're talking about so you can go out there and do these interviews. But that's a great way to start getting a name for yourself, especially if you are a local based business, because these journalists, they're always working on stories. You can even pitch them stories and ideas. So maybe there's something that you can throw out to them as an idea and they might run with your story. So there are lots of different ways to start building your brand and getting that recognition. A lot of our listeners may be either starting out in the business or maybe they don't have like a physical office, so they work from home. In that case, what would you suggest? Should they list their home address if they're going with that citation building approach? Should they work with, the PO box or something else? What do you recommend if they don't have like kind of a typical traditional office?
Sure. Yeah. Because I've been working online and I've been in like remote only companies for a long time. So I'm quite familiar with that dilemma. The thing with Google is they really do like a physical address. If you use a PO box or other things, they kind of been discrediting them, because then what happens is someone can just create a fake website with a fake name, get a PO box, and then they can just create it purely for like generating leads. And so they really do want to like verify that it's like a real person with a real address. However, you don't necessarily have to show your address. So, ideally that you find some sort of address that you're okay showing, because some of the websites are going to show the address. But there is a way that you can, like for like a Google My Business, that's like how to show up on Google Maps. If you sign up and use your address, you can say like, oh, I'm not tied to this location. I go to my client's place of business or whatever. And you can make that selection so that it doesn't show your address at all. And I mean, I even worked with someone that he built out a bunch of websites, and sometimes he would pay people off Craigslist just to use their physical address. So the physical address is like important, and you want to find a physical address you can use. But if you're really cautious about using your physical address, it's a little bit touchy. But yeah, I generally would recommend just using your home address, and it's totally fine.
Got it. Appreciate that tip there. I mean, hopefully people aren't going to come to your house and start trying to do business with you face to face if you use that strategy, but take your own precaution as you need to there. Let's talk a little bit more about the link building strategies, right? So you gave us two really good tips there. One, start with that location-based citation approach. Second is using a platform like Help a Reporter Out, where you can pitch stories or be kind of that expert that they can rely on. What are some other things to go out there and try to build out, your link building strategy and kind of helping to build out the backlinks?
Sure. Well, something I think, just to be aware of is that, most importantly, you need to recognize that backlinks are important and try to identify things that you may already be doing that you could be getting backlinks from, because a lot of businesses will do like these little seminars or informational things. And sometimes you can reach out to like your local newspaper and get your event added to their calendar and they'll link to your site. Or there's things like this, like events is something where if you're hosting any sort of events, you want to make sure that any other newspapers or publications in your area that post events, you can reach out and let them know. So again, that's something that almost anybody could do. There are some strategies that maybe take a bit more effort, or for people that are trying to scale more, that are really serious about their SEO, and that's from the content side. There's certain types of content that do really well at generating interest and generating backlinks, and the type of content that does really well is generally data. Content with data. For example, there's a website out of Canada that's all about rentals, and they do a monthly like rental evaluation, kind of where the rental market is going, and it's all this data that they're compiling every single month, and they get so many links and mentions from these large publications, journalists and stuff. Really, they look for this information so they can have stories to talk about. So anything that has a lot of data associated with it, whether it's evaluating the rental market or any sort of real estate related things in your specific area or nationwide, or depending on your focus, Another thing that works really well is deciding kind of what particular data points might be interesting to look at, and then creating an article about that. So I've seen people just say like, "Oh, these are the friendliest neighborhoods, or in this city, or these are like the worst places to live in the city." Or there's both the positive and the side and the negative that gets people interested and talking. And this kind of stuff, like I had a client that kind of does a lot of these like livability scores and these kind of things. And because a lot of it's providing data on all these neighborhoods, they didn't have to do a lot of active link building because all this data is getting used just without them asking. And the cities and the municipalities, they love mentioning like, "Oh, our city was mentioned as like the top 10 in the state," or whatever. And they love like that publicity. So anything you can do, you think of these content angles of like, "Oh, how can I kind of take some existing data you can get for free and evaluate that and make some sort of lists that might be interesting to people?" And that's something that can really help get interest and backlinks rolling in.
Those are some great strategies, right? Understanding what people are looking for. And those lists, could be listicles, but, if you think about like, what are the kind of things people always click on, right? So you think about the best whatever in this city, or the best whatever in America or region, the worst whatever in the city or region. And in real estate, I mean, it could be, the best rental markets, right? It could be the top, I always see MSN and some other websites do, the top rental markets in the country. And it'll be kind of a listicle, and you got to click each page or whatever. But, that's a very common thing. And you see that a lot. And they're usually pulling data from another source, and they're just putting into a quick list. And they're obviously linking back to whatever that source website is. That is a great idea if you are looking to drive kind of that connection and get those links for your website. I think one of the things that you talked about was, the link building strategies. And a lot of our listeners are not marketers. They're not content creators. We're real estate professionals. We want to go out there, find deals, make something happen. And this is a necessary evil, but not the thing we want to spend our time focused on. So for those individuals, what are some link building strategies for people who really don't like link building?
Sure. Well, one thing to mention about that is the website that I mentioned in Canada. Their blog posts, their monthly blog posts that go into their rent reports. You can tell that it's written by some research and consultancy firm. So it's not like they aren't the ones writing it. They've just outsourced to someone that has the data, or that it's able to put these things together. So, you don't necessarily have to be the one that's compiling this sort of thing, but you do have to kind of understand some of the strategy that's behind it and find someone that can do that. But for people that don't, that don't really want to get into the weeds, a lot of these things that I've kind of already mentioned are approaches that would work, like finding directories to get your site listed in. And something else I may have, that might be another good approach is, it's called testimonial link building. And it's basically thinking of, are there certain tools that maybe you use in your business on a regular basis? Maybe it's a CRM software, or, different things. Sometimes you can identify like suppliers or people you already work with, and maybe provide them a testimonial. And some sites will have testimonials on their webpage and link to those that are giving the testimonials. So that's something you can kind of think of like a quick win, like, oh, who do I currently work with that I can easily just reach out to and say, hey, I'd love to provide a testimonial to you if you can use it on your website. So directories, testimonials, responding to queries, and then events, and making sure that those events are listed on different websites are all good things to do. And that's something too, like if you're ever hosting an event, sometimes the event itself, like more than just like, if you go to a local newspaper, they'll have an events section you can get listed in their calendar. But sometimes the local newspaper will actually want to discuss the event and cover it as its own article. So, obviously the better you have connections, if you know someone, that's easier. Or you can just do cold outreach to try to like, hey, just letting you know we're hosting this event that might be of interest to the community, especially if it's something that's like oh, we're giving, free advice, or, free tax preparation is something like in a different niche but there's something that could be related to real estate. Oh, free home evaluations or things like this that you could be offering to the community, that might be able to get some coverage. So just kind of thinking, what types of events or things could we host that could get people talking? It could even be something as simple as like a trunk or treat, like we just had Halloween. Oh, we're hosting a local trunk or treat on this street, and then just reaching out to the local publications and letting them know that this event is happening and this is what's going to be, and they may want to talk about it and link to your site. So.
No, great tips there. And the thing that's really cool, especially if you understand PR a little bit more, and you don't have to be an expert, but just recognize that many of them have articles they have to pump out, right? They've got content they have to fill one way or the other. So if you can help them out with some ideas and kind of gift wrap that idea for them, that makes it easy for them to cover it. And part of what you're talking about when you talk about like trunk or treat or things like that, it has to be timely. If you're going to go and do a trunk or treat, or you want to pitch an article about something you did, but it's 2 weeks after a holiday, well, people don't care at that point, right? So you have to pitch that in advance so it can get kind of on that timeline, the schedule, and they can bring someone out and cover it. And then you need to have an angle, right? Why would people care? What's the angle here? Why would someone want to click on this? Help that reporter out so you can tell them, hey, this is what's going on. Here's what we're doing about it. You should come out, or you should write an article to cover it. And those are great tips to help you kind of stand out and position your business in a great way. A lot of our people who are listening to this right now, maybe they haven't built out their business or had that business very long. So maybe their website's brand new. They don't have a whole lot of traffic. What are some strategies for an individual like that with a brand new website to start getting some traction?
Yeah, I mean, with a brand new website, again, it kind of depends on whether you're targeting a local area or you're hoping to be more kind of national. But for a local area, building out those citations is a really easy way to get started. And in recognizing some of these things, like, Google My Business, that's just getting a listing in the Google Maps. Because when I started, learning SEO for the first time, it was for like a wood refinishing business. And I was just playing around trying to figure out, okay, how can I stop doing all the cold calling myself, going to these, because I was cold calling in Vegas to property managers, facility managers, on the Vegas Strip. And I was like, okay, how can we kind of stop requiring me to keep doing these cold calls? And so it really was about like just identifying, okay, where are people currently searching for these options and making sure I'm listed there. And that's probably the easiest way for anyone to get started. Obviously, from an SEO perspective, it can be a little challenging to figure out, okay, how do I get the ball rolling? Because you do need to get some content on your website. You need to, identify, what would be of interest to those in your community and whatnot. But I think if the way you can think about it, you can write informational content on any topic, but if you're looking specifically at content that is going to be of help that people will link to, what I always say is altruism is what converts. So anything that seems altruistic, where you're giving something for free, or it feels as though you're not doing it in your best interest, like you're just giving something to the community, and businesses often do these types of things. But if you can offer something, whether it's a piece of content that's super valuable, or it's insight that is super valuable, things that you think like, oh, someone else would find a lot of value in this, and you create that content, that helps you kind of get on that road to start being recognized and being able to kind of garner some of this interest and backlinks to start helping your business.
No, it was great tips. And I love that last point, because if you can truly add value to people, you will get that value back. And it has to be coming from a place where you've taken a moment and you've said, all right, what would help somebody who's looking for this? And providing that content, providing it free of charge, or providing it at a no cost standpoint. Maybe you exchange email addresses or whatever, but If you can do that and you can really provide value for people, well, now you can take that and they're going to share it, right? They're going to be more likely to share a piece of content that truly helped them and they think is very valuable. You're going to be more likely to get backlinks, because of that. And all that's going to help you with the SEO, with your ranking. And ultimately, if Google trusts you, if the people trust you, if Google trusts you, you're going to see your business grow because more people will be able to find you. And that's the whole goal of everything we're talking about here is how do you make it easier for people to find you? And a point you made about, the business you had where you're doing cold calls and you're trying to find these business owners and you're trying to pitch yourself in the business. Well, if you can reverse that process and people are calling you to say, hey, do you do X, Y, Z? I'm looking for this kind of help. And it fits exactly what you do. Your job becomes much easier. Now you've got inbound leads versus outbound leads. And those inbound leads are going to be much easier to close because they're telling you, hey, I'm interested in this right now because I'm searching for it. I'm looking for it. I've got a problem I got to solve right now. Not necessarily you just getting lucky and calling that person who's the decision maker at the right time. And if you think about how this relates to real estate, think about somebody who is interested in selling their house. Well, the moment I start Googling it, I'm looking at, top realtors in Cincinnati or whatever the case may be. Well, I'm going to get a few options. And if I don't have someone I already know, I may reach out to a couple of them and that's it. But they know I'm looking right now. I was just Googling versus you just calling me on the right day when I'm interested in selling my house. So if you can figure that out and really get those inbound leads, it's going to make it much more attractive for you to grow your business and do so in a way that allows you to be very efficient in that process. So a lot of people don't want to do all this stuff themselves, rightfully so. Many people may go out and hire an agency or a marketing firm to go out there and help them with their SEO. Can you explain some of the challenges or the mistakes that people make when they go through this process?
Yeah, sure. So the first question, if you want to kind of pursue SEO as a marketing strategy, is, does SEO make sense for your business? And the honest answer is it may not make sense. There are ways that you can get leads and you can get business where you can measure an ROI almost immediately. So for example, if you're doing paid advertising or like paying in Google or Yelps or any of these kind of things where you're paying for the leads as they come in, or even a pay per lead model, you can see, okay, I spent this and this is what I got in return. With SEO, you have to be willing to invest into it for a longer term. You may be putting money into it for 6 to 12 months and not seeing any sort of immediate return. So you have to understand, okay, is my service or my offering something that people are looking for already? And it's something that I can provide that solution. And how competitive is it currently? And how patient am I willing to be to go down that path of investing in SEO and then kind of waiting to see, if it pays off. So I think that's one of the first things you need to look at is, does it make sense for your business? And it may not, and that's fine. There's lots of different marketing approaches you can take, but you do want to take a look at it and see if it makes sense. And then the next thing I would say is that if it makes sense and you want to start hiring agencies, agencies are notoriously many people have very bad experiences with agencies. Almost anyone that comes to me and says they worked with an agency in the past, like they'll have lots of horror stories. Oh, I've worked with 3 different agencies and none of them did anything, or I wasn't happy with what they did. And so I think if you're looking for an agency or someone to help you, you just want to make sure you find someone that's very transparent and is willing to be very open and honest with you as to what they're doing, why they're doing it, why that makes sense. And because the problem in SEO as an industry is like the truth, like, oh, SEO takes time. That's the truth. But the truth can be used by agencies that just want you to pay them for 6 to 12 months, not really do anything of value. And then they can just hold on to you as a client for 9 months. And then when you finally, you're like, okay, this isn't working. And they'll just churn and burn through clients. So that's the unfortunate reality, that there are people that will use the same frame, that same sales pitch of like, oh, it takes time, you need to invest into it, but they may not necessarily actually be doing what's best. So you just want to make sure that like you find someone that's very transparent, is willing to explain things, and not really just kind of push you in the door and just get you signed on, but they're really willing to kind of sit down and make sure you understand what they're going to do and why, and And so that's kind of the approach I would go if I was going to hire an agency.
And if you're vetting agencies to help you with this, and whether it be specifically for link building, SEO, or marketing in general, is there a question or is there something specific you can ask or do or look for that can help you differentiate those agencies who are just going to try to collect from you versus those who are going to actually be able to help you drive the revenue and results you're looking for in your business?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it'd just be to dig into what they're doing and why. And if it doesn't make sense, just making sure you're getting multiple opinions, like for anything, you're going to hire a company to do, I always want to get like 3 to 5 quotes. So you don't just go with the first company you talk to. You need to talk to a few different companies, ask the same questions, and get a sense for, okay, I asked this question and it's not making sense because this person said this, but this other one is saying something different. Like some of that you do need to weed into it enough to where you kind of start saying, okay, well, this is starting to make sense that, I'm getting the same story over and over or whatnot. So I think it's just trying to dig in, just ask very specific questions, just be open and honest with, I don't know what this is. I don't know why that would help me. Like, why would this help me? Like, just go in as ignorant as you are and be open and transparent with your lack of understanding and see who's going to like hold your hand and make sure you understand, like is going to be patient with you and say, hey, like this is the reality. And because you want to find someone that you just feel like you can trust. And so that's the main thing I would say is just dig in until you feel satisfied you've gotten the answers to your questions, and those that are willing to answer your questions, because generally the people that are trying to not be transparent, they just want to give you a quick answer and they don't necessarily want to dive into details. So that would be a big thing to look out for.
And I would just add referrals and references are always key too, right? Like understanding what was that experience like for other people? If there's somebody who has, results that you like, maybe you could reach out to them and see who they used or how did they get those results. That's always going to help you at least weed out a little bit. None of this is foolproof, but it at least gives you a little bit of a better chance of success. Aaron, for those folks who want to maybe partner with you or learn more about your company, they can check out your website, linkpitch.io. And he's got some information there. So feel free to check out linkpitch.io. We are going to move on to our round of insights. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, Aaron, give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Well, after I graduated college, I would say I tried maybe 10 different jobs within a 1 or 2 year span. Just, trying things out and not working and keep going. And maybe people may have thought like, I was looking for the perfect thing, but I think just deciding something wasn't a fit and moving on helped me kind of, land where my skills would best be of use.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Well, for link building and understanding link building, I would say the blog at Ahrefs, it's Ahrefs, would be a great resource.
Awesome. Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I would say Who. It's all about hiring, which is really important to my business. And if you're a business owner, it's a great one.
Nice. Is that Who or Who Not How?
Who. Yeah.
Just Who. Okay. Excellent. We'll make sure we link to that. I haven't heard Who, so I'll have to double check that one. Excellent. All right. Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
For me, it's daily exercise in the morning is kind of what sets my day. And if I miss it, it negatively impacts me.
Give me your number one insight for link building.
Number one insight? I think it's all about just seeing what's working, evaluating your competitors and see what's working and essentially just ripping it off.
I love it. Well, listen, I know that you are out there in Florida and you've got some really good food options there. So give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Yeah, well, I have little kids, so I like this place here called Doubles that has a splash pad to keep the kids engaged while we can actually eat. So
There you go. I love it. Doubles. We'll have to check that out and make sure we put that one on the list, especially for the little ones. Listen, Aaron, you gave us some great context and feedback in regards to how to actually have a link building strategy. For many folks, maybe this isn't as relevant right now, but for any business, being able to grow your customers and clients and investors is going to be key. And you gave some great tips on how to keep a flow of new business coming through the door, leveraging some of the techniques and strategies you went into. So I'll make sure we check out some of those things. We'll link to some of the resources you mentioned in our show notes. And again, if anybody wants to learn more or understand what it is that Link Pitch does, they can check out your firm, linkpitch.io, on your website. And Aaron, I just want to thank you again for coming on Multifamily Insights. I hope you have a great day, and thank you again for being a guest.
Yeah, thank you. It was lots of fun.